welcome back to our YouTube exclusive series. I am the Disturbed Southern Belle.
And I'm the gentleman.
On this episode, we're going to be talking about some disturbing mental disorders and illnesses. And we're going to be talking about two that are really well known, and sort of what we know them as is not technically what they're called. You know what I'm saying? You know, what we call them is not what it's known as. And that's the sociopath and the psychopath. Now, a sociopath is not technically, like I said, or a psychopath is not technically considered the term that you would, call them. It's basically a term that's used to describe someone that has antisocial personality disorder, or ASPD, which is a mental health condition that is characterized by a persistent pattern of disregard for social norms, laws, and the rights and feelings of others. So it's basically somebody who has antisocial personality disorder, but they're, we know them as sociopaths. I mean, we've heard that term. I mean, it's just a term that's used to describe it. But the symptoms include, so the main symptom of this disorders include things like a lack of empathy and remorse, manipulative and deceitful behavior, aggressive or impulsive actions, irresponsibility and disregard for consequences, and difficulty maintaining relationships. And then they also are known to have like this superficial charm and charisma, where they can make people do what they want to an extent. You know what I'm saying? They can charm them into manipulating them more, and they have this charisma about them. It makes people want to do what they're asking them to, and things like that. And they're often seen as charming and charismatic at first, but due to the fact that they find it difficult to understand the feelings of others, they will often break the rules of law and feel little or no guilt for harming anybody in any way. They don't really feel the guilt like we would feel. They don't feel remorse or feel bad, or they hurt somebody. They don't really feel anything. Now, sociopaths are a little different than psychopaths in that they do have some feelings and emotions. Psychopaths are basically said to have none. None. They're often, sociopaths are said to use manipulation and deceit and controlling behaviors for people and things like that to get them to do, what they want them to do. Now, there's no real definitive reason, as for what causes this to happen. The development of this disorder, they think it may, brain chemistry, inherited genes are thought to play a large part, like you might inherit it from a parent or, grandfather or whatever. Although some people think it might be like, their upbringing and other environmental factors that are thought to, carry the most weight. So they think that, children that receive absolutely no nurturing attention from caregivers will then grow up learning that they think that they just have to take care of themselves because no one else will. No one will do anything for them, basically. They have to do everything for themselves. They have had no one do anything for them in their lives to help them in any way, is what they think or feel. Now, whether that's completely true, I don't know. That's just what they feel. So some have developed this disorder. Were also people that have experienced abuse and violence and manipulation from an early age, which people think or therapists and things believe that they may just learn to model that behavior and just think that that's normal, that that's how you're supposed to act, and they don't know any other way to act. Now, there's been research that suggested that this disorder can also be acquired, and this normally happens after some sort of like head trauma or damage to the frontal lobes of the brain, or from a progressive condition like dementia, which can lead to some antisocial behaviors. So, you could even acquire it perhaps later in life. So, of course, diagnosis would come from a trained medical professional, of course, which a person must exhibit 3 of the signs that, we described earlier, lack of remorse and all that. And along with a few additional criteria, which include the behavior appears across multiple areas of their life. In other words, they're not focusing on one person. It's like all across everyone. They're treating everyone the same, different things like that. The person has to be at least 18 years old. The person has had some symptoms of conduct disorder before the age of 15. And conduct disorder involves antisocial traits that begin by the age of 16 or under, and it's considered a major risk factor for ASPD, and adults must show signs of conduct disorder in childhood in order to be diagnosed with APSD. So they had to basically show that earlier, and then, whatever. If they don't, then they're just basically considered to have conduct disorder. They're also supposed to have antisocial traits and behaviors that don't relate to schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. So, in other words, nothing else explains this, so this has to be what it is. So, it's not this, it's not this, it has to be this sort of thing. So, to make a diagnosis, a therapist might, ask questions about a person's feelings, their thoughts, behaviors, and personal relationships, and then ask, of course, with permission, the person's family members or romantic partners about their behaviors. And they may evaluate their, medical history, for signs of other conditions, of course, to make sure it's not something else going on. But yeah, it's a very creepy mental disorder to me. Just that lack of remorse and the no real feelings and not caring at all that you've hurt someone in any, just not even caring. I don't know. That just seems very creepy to me, and it's kind of scary to think that there's people like that. But we know there are. So next is the psychopath. Now, of course, while this is not an official mental health diagnosis, this disorder also has some traits that can overlap with the antisocial personality disorder. So psychopathy or psychopathic personality is a personality construct, which is a tool that is used to understand human behavior. So basically, they just trying to figure out why people do what they do, basically. So the symptoms of this include things like lack of empathy. They are known not to care in the least how their actions might impact others or hurt anybody. They don't care. They're manipulative. They often use charm and manipulation to get what they want from others. Deceit. They will often lie and try to rationalize their behavior. They are known to be impulsive. They often act in a very risky manners. They're just, they have to have immediate gratification. They don't care. They love that thrill. They're also known to be needing that feeling of, I guess, the excitement they feel because they never feel anything. They get a little bit of excitement when they think they might be caught or something. They're known to be reckless, which will cause them to commit acts of violence, theft, or fraud. And they're often said to have a big ego, and they have very limited emotional responses, or their emotions seem to lack sincerity. Like somebody smiles at you, but that smile doesn't look right. It doesn't match their face or their eyes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's creepy. So they may also lack conscience or guilt, feeling that they can do whatever they want, whenever they want, to whoever they want. It doesn't matter. They also refuse to accept any responsibility for their actions. They may also show traits of egocentrism, which refers to a difficulty of differentiating between oneself and others, which in turn makes it hard for them to understand that other people have their own thoughts, feelings, and perspectives because they think everybody thinks just like they do, and they're just like them. So there was this 3-factor model of the psychopathy checklist revised, which is going to see widespread application in the measure for screening for this disorder and several others. It looks for arrogant and deceitful interpersonal style, which includes superficial charm, inflated grandiose sense of self-worth, pathological lying, and manipulation for personal gain. Also, it checks for deficient affective experiences, which can include a lack of remorse or guilt, shallow affect, which would be described as being cold or showing no emotions, being callous and lacking empathy, and the failure to accept responsibility for their actions. Lastly, it checks for impulsive and irresponsible lifestyles, which can include impulsivity, sensation seeking, which is, like I said, that thought of maybe, I could get caught at any moment while I'm killing this person kind of thing, sort of thoughts even. Risk-taking, being irresponsible, having unreliable behavior, being a financially parasitic person, and having a lack of unrealistic long-term goals, or having a lack of realistic, long-term goals. So the original description of psychopathy included the absence of nervousness and neurotic disorders, which for that, I would want to be a psychopath if I could go without having the nervousness and stuff, anxiety that I deal with. But not really, but you know what I'm saying. It would be nice not to have to deal with that. Which this led theorists to say that they termed psychopaths as being like fearless or thick-skinned. And this has a strong correlation in violence that's been found to be associated for someone that receives psychopathy scores when they're tested. It's been said that people with psychopathic tendencies are associated with what is considered instrumental aggression, which is also known as like this predatory, proactive, or cold-blooded aggression, which is a form of aggression that's characterized by reduced emotion with a goal differing from but facilitated by the commission of harm. Basically, they don't even care that they're causing harm. They don't care what they don't care. They don't, they have no feelings, nothing. It's also been found that perpetrators of domestic violence have high rates of psychopathy. With the estimated,
I wonder why.
Really, right? With the estimated amount of being around 15 to 30% of people who've known to do that having tendencies, at the very least, maybe not full on, but having a lot of the checks, the boxes checked. It's believed that many of these perpetrators commit their crimes in a manner that is callously perpetrated instead of a case that is considered to be emotionally aggressive. In other words, it's not like they're having a fight or something, and they're, in the heat of the moment, a man slaps his wife. I'm not saying it's okay, but you know what I'm saying. It's not something like that. It's just they don't care. They just no reason, just beat somebody up. They don't care.
Yeah.
For literally no reason whatsoever, just because why not? It can greatly vary from person to person with the disorder, how they will behave as they progress through life. Some have went on to become murderers. Every horrible thing you can think of that can be done, they've done it. While some have gone on to be successful leaders, and we could even say that probably some of the world leaders that we've known probably have been psychopaths. I mean, to be honest. Look at Hitler. I mean,
oh, yeah.
How could somebody do stuff like that and you'd have to have no empathy or remorse to be allowed things like that to go on under your watch. So,
wasn't, not talking about world leaders here, that'll be obvious here in a moment. Wasn't John Wayne Gacy a psychopath?
He was both considered a sociopath and a psychopath.
Yeah. I think he was diagnosed as a psychopath, wasn't he?
Right. Technically he's considered a sociopath in that he is supposed to have some feelings, but he is actually also considered a psychopath because he goes a little further over into the more violent nature that's known to be with psychopaths. So he's really considered a psychopath, but I guess technically a sociopath. But yeah,
I'm not really all that familiar with his case, but I've heard some stuff.
He's not a good guy in any stretch whatsoever.
I know what he did.
Now, I feel bad for the man in what he grew up in. He had a very horrible childhood. Now, that does not in any way excuse what he did. Now, I do feel bad for him in that, only that. But what he did later, he did some truly disgusting things. Truly disgusting things. Now, there are some experts that have theorized that narcissism and psychopathy exist on the same personality continuum, and they both often show low humility and agreeableness, but only a psychopath will show low consciousness. So they don't have any conscience. A narcissist has a conscience, at least. They have remorse, they have feelings, they feel bad and can change certain behaviors and can act like, be a decent person sometimes, but a psychopath, I don't know if they can even do that. So, some of the most famous psychopaths that we would know, of course, one would be John Wayne Gacy. He is considered, one. Of course, another one, Ted Bundy.
Oh, yeah.
He is one of the most absolutely well-known one. And if you've ever watched interviews of him, he is creepy as all get out.
Unsettling watching him in those interviews.
Jeffrey Dahmer is another.
Yeah.
And Dennis Rader, and if you don't know who he is, the BTK, or what, bind, torture, killer.
Oh.
And he's absolutely awful. The stuff that these men have done. We're going to do a series later on talking about some of the more prolific serial killers from around the world. But, oh my goodness. Anybody, I'm sure, at the very least, you've heard these people's names. At the very least. For good or bad, sadly. So, there are several factors that are evaluated in the diagnosis. And while low anxiety or fearlessness is not directly included, it does kind of contribute to the scoring of the first facet. So this includes things like self-assurance and unrealistic optimism and brazenness and things like that. So that can sort of get in there with not being fear. You're real brazen, so you can be kind of fearless and not have any anxiety. You know what I'm saying? So it sort of goes with it, but it's not exactly it. So psychopaths versus sociopaths. Now, sociopaths usually experience limited empathy and remorse for their behavior. Notice I said limited.
Yeah.
They often struggle to maintain normal behaviors and routines and are said to be impulsive and overly emotional. A sociopath may realize that their actions are wrong, but will usually try to rationalize and explain it and basically make it okay some way. And they also have a hard time maintaining jobs and relationships because low in, of course, I mean, duh. Now, psychopaths are said to lack a conscience and feel no empathy. They have no conscience, no empathy, and they will often use their intelligence to manipulate and exploit those around them, which is also very creepy because there is a lot of them that actually do have very high IQs. And it's creepy, what I'm saying, to think that how easily some people are manipulated, that they could use that against them. So, ugh. Now, they are also known for planning and scheming, and they have very predatory behavior. So they're like stalkers and stuff. You know what I'm saying? They're very like Ted Bundy and stuff. They'd stake out places, and it was, ugh. So they also require immediate gratification and are known to act out emotionally. They may pretend to care and often maintain this normal facade to cover up behaviors or crimes. If you ever watched the TV show Dexter, for instance, he's one that would be sort of like that, where he tries to make it like he's this normal guy, but, he's out killing people. Now, granted, he has this code and things and whatever, and you can agree or disagree with why he does it, but, I mean, what I'm saying is he does try to have, like, a normal life. He has a job, and things like that, and tries to have relationships and things, but he struggles with all of them because he doesn't really feel the connection that normal people would feel. So, anyway, we hope you enjoyed hearing about some more of the disturbing mental disorders, and we, of course, invite you back next week where we continue to look at some more of the strange and disturbing mental disorders that are out there. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe, and don't forget to stay disturbed.